In this video, we are going to be calculating our profit that we're going to be making from our t-shirts. And in order to do that, we need to create a profit calculator that will figure out what our total costs are per shirt, what we charge per shirt, and then what we would charge based on the number of shirts that we sell, or what we would make in profit off the number of shirts that we sell. In order to do that, we're going to create a new sheet to create that calculator on. And so I'm just going to go to the last sheet so that when I create the new one, it'll go after that one. And I'm going to click on the Add Sheet button. And then I'm going to rename this sheet Profit Calculator. So I'm going to create a title first. I call it Breakdown of Costs. And I'll merge, let's just say, the top 4 cells together. And then I'm going to work out my breakdown of my cost per item. And so I have costs for my shirt, for my ink, and for my transfers in order to make those shirts. So I am going to create a title for each one of those. Costs per shirt. Cost of ink. And cost of transfers. And I'm going to bold those. And this top row here, I'm just going to make it stand out a little more by going to a larger size. Go to size 12. And so that will work out my costs. And then I am going to add in the total cost per shirt. And now I've got to get this information. So all this information, at least the first 3, come from our expenses. So I'm going to go equals, and then I'm going to go over to our expenses tab. And I'm going to click on the actual cost per shirt, which was, and this was based on 10,000 shirts. And I used the actual cost because there were some costs in there that weren't in the budgeted costs for the shipping. So I click on that actual cost, and I'm going to divide that by 10,000 in order to get the number per shirt, since that was for 10,000 shirts. So that gives me a cost of $201 per shirt. And then I'm going to get my cost of ink, which again I get from that expenses, and that total cost of ink for the refillable cartridges, and then again divide by 10,000. And then my cost of transfers, same thing, equals expenses, the actual cost of the transfers, which includes the shipping cost, divided by 10,000. To work out my total costs, I am going to do an equation that's just going to add those up. So it's going to be equals, and then I use the sum equation, and I can do those sum equations horizontally as well as vertically. So I click on those 3, enter, and that gives me my total costs. So that will figure out what it's costing us for each shirt. All right, so the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on figuring out what our profits would be. So we're going to create another category here called profits. We'll make that bold. And we'll just merge that with a few cells. So we're going to start with what we would sell our shirts for. So we look at our price per shirt. And that's what we would charge people. And that's an arbitrary number because that number is really based on what we decide to sell the shirts for. And I'm just going to say that an average price for shirts would be $15. So I'll put in a 15 there. And then, of course, I'm going to change that to currency. And then we're going to figure out what our profit per shirt would be. Which is going to be our price minus our total cost. So that shows us how much money we make per shirt, which is pretty good per shirt. And then just over here a little further, I'm just going to put our tax costs, because we have to pay tax on these. When we sell these items, we would have to charge tax, and that money would go to the government, and that would equal our price per shirt that we're charging multiplied by 0.15, which would give us our 15%, and that calculates our price per shirt, our profit per shirt, and then how much tax we would pay per shirt. And so in the next step, we are going to figure out what our actual profits would be based on the number of shirts that we sell. And so we will do that in the space down here below. And we're going to call this our profit calculator. And again, I'm going to make this bold, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to have our subtitles down below that. And our first one is just going to be number of shirts, because that's what all of this is based on, how many shirts we sell. And then the next one will be total costs. And then total profits. Then total income, which is how much money we actually take in versus how much money we make. And then our total tax. So these four, cost, profits, income, and tax, are all going to be based on the number of shirts that we sell and based on the costs that we worked out up above. So I'm going to start with a 0 for the number of shirts, just to have a number in there that we can use for our calculations. And I'm going to make all these titles bold. And I'll resize this to fit. So our total costs is going to equal the number of shirts multiplied by our total costs from up here. And then our total profits is going to be based on, again, equals the number of shirts multiplied by our profit per shirt. And then our total income is going to be based on, again, our number of shirts multiplied by our price per shirt. And then, of course, our total tax, once again, is going to equal our number of shirts multiplied by our tax per shirt. So right now, all these equal 0. But then if I put in number of shirts, so let's say, for example, I sold 100 shirts, then that should work out my costs here. So at 100 shirts, it would cost me $311.50. I would have a total profit of $1,188.50. Would actually be taking in $1,500 in total income. And then I would be paying tax at $225 on that $1,500 of income that comes into the store. Tax goes to the government, and then the profit goes into our bank account once we pay off our total costs. So this profit calculator we can now use to determine how much money we would make based on a given number of shirts that we sold. All right, that's everything for today. If you have any questions, just email me.